So you've probably heard about Claude Code, but it's not just another AI assistant, not by a long shot. It's built to be a real partner in your coding, what we call an agentic partner. But what does that actually mean? Well, we're about to unlock the 5 core concepts that make it tick, and it all starts with a simple request that came straight from developers like you. Sometimes a single comment just nails it. This one, from a developer on Reddit, really gets to the heart of what makes Claude's code so different. Its growth isn't just about shipping cool tech. It's about solving the problems real developers face every day. And this desire for a safety net, for the freedom to experiment without fear, well, that's a huge piece of the puzzle we're putting together today. Okay, so before we dive into all the cool features, we've got to get on the same page about one big idea: agentic coding. We're moving way beyond a smarter autocomplete here. Agentic coding means the AI acts more like a junior developer. You give it a high-level goal, and it actually figures out the steps, uses the right tools, and gets the job done. This concept is the bedrock for everything else we're going to talk about. All right, so if this thing is an agent, how do you actually, direct it? That brings us to our very first core concept, the custom toolkit you can build for yourself using slash commands and skills. This is how you really make Claude your own, tailoring it to your projects and your way of working. Let's start with slash commands. The easiest way to think about them, they're basically your personal remote control for Claude. They are simple, direct shortcuts. You know that one super long prompt you find yourself typing over and over again to review a file or maybe deploy to staging? Well, you can just wrap that whole thing up in a single, easy-to-remember command. You're always the one pushing the button. Now, skills, this is where it gets really interesting. If slash commands are the remote control, skills are kind of like the brains of the operation. You're not just making a shortcut here, you're actually teaching Claude a new capability. You write out detailed instructions for a task, like how to format a commit message exactly to your team's standards. And here's the magic part. Claude figures out when to use that skill all by itself. And this right here, this is the key difference, laid out plain and simple. Slash commands are manual. You decide when to fire them off. Skills are automatic. Claude sees a situation, like maybe you're about to make a commit, and it pipes up and says, hey, I have a skill for this. Want me to use it? So one is a tool you choose to use, and the other is knowledge you give the agent to use on its own. And you might be thinking, this sounds complicated, but teaching Claude a new skill? It's actually super straightforward. You just create a special directory, write a simple markdown file with a name, a good description, and your instructions, and that's it. Claude picks it up automatically. You can then just ask it if it knows the skill and test it out with a plain English prompt. That description is key. It's how Claude knows when its new knowledge is relevant. Okay, but wait. Giving an AI this much freedom to automate things and edit your code? That sounds a little scary, right? That's what brings us to our second concept. And it's the very thing that Reddit user was so excited about: checkpoints. This is your ultimate safety net. And look, I know what you're thinking, because it's the first question every developer asks. Isn't that what Git is for? It's a fantastic question, and it was a hot topic in the community. If we've already got Git for version control, why on earth do we need another system to roll things back? Let's break it down. This table really breaks it down perfectly. Think of it like this. Checkpoints are your frequent, automatic quick saves for any changes the AI makes. It's all about letting you experiment without worry. Git, on the other hand, is for your deliberate, manual, final saves, the permanent history of the whole project. They're not competing at all. They're 2 different layers of safety for 2 totally different purposes. And the best part? It's completely automatic. You don't have to do a single thing. Every time you ask Claude to do something that changes code, it saves a checkpoint first. If the AI goes off the rails or you just don't like the direction it's heading, you just pop open the rewind menu and roll back the code changes, the conversation, or both. It even works if you disconnect and come back later. This is what makes fearless coding possible. Okay, so we've got customization with skills and a safety net with checkpoints, but how does Claude actually handle a big, complicated task? How does it think? To figure that out, we need to pop the hood and meet the team. So here's the secret sauce. You're not actually talking to a single monolithic AI. When a complex request comes in, the main Claude agent acts like a manager and delegates parts of that job to specialized sub-agents. Each one is an expert in a specific thing, and this part is so important. Each one gets its own totally separate context window to work in. And honestly, the best way to picture this is to think of the main Claude agent as a project manager. It gets the overall goal from you, but when it needs to do some deep research on the codebase or come up with a really complex plan, it doesn't try to do it all itself. It taps a specialist on its team on the shoulder and says, "Hey, can you handle this piece for me?" And right out of the box, you've got this built-in team of specialists ready to go. You've got the Explore agent, which uses the super fast Haiku model, and its whole job is to quickly find files and understand how your codebase is structured. Then you've got the Plan agent, which uses the smarter Sonnet model to create really detailed strategies. The main agent knows who's best for what and delegates automatically. That's orchestration. So why go through all this trouble? Well, this whole process is the key to its power. By sending work off to a sub-agent, your main conversation doesn't get clogged up with a million search results or rough drafts of a plan. The specialist does its work quietly in its own space and just hands back a clean summary. This keeps your main context window lean, focused, and way, way more effective. All right, so we've got a customizable agent, a safety net, an internal team. But what about the outside world? A great developer tool can't just live in its own little bubble, right? It needs to connect to everything else you use. And that brings us to our final core concept. I absolutely love this quote from Microsoft because it's just perfect. Calling the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, the USB-C for applications, hits the nail on the head. It's an open standard, a universal connector that lets any AI agent plug into any tool without needing 1,000 different custom adapters. This, right here, solves what is usually a total nightmare: integrations. Instead of writing custom code to connect to GitHub, then more code for Jira, then more for your database, you just use MCP. And because it's an open standard, it means you're not locked into one vendor. It encourages this whole ecosystem where any tool can talk to any agent. It's a really big deal. And once you have that universal connector, the possibilities are just wow. You can literally tell Claude, "Go implement the feature described in this Jira ticket," and it can connect to Jira, read the ticket, hop over to GitHub, create a new branch, write the code, and then open a pull request for review. It becomes a true orchestrator, tying all your different tools together into one seamless workflow. Phew. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. We've gone from simple user commands all the way to how it talks to the outside world. So let's take a step back and see how all these pieces fit together to form one system. And this is the most important thing to remember. These aren't just 5 cool separate features. They're 5 interlocking gears in one powerful machine. You teach the agent how you work using slash commands and skills. You get to experiment without fear because of checkpoints. The agent handles complex jobs internally using subagents, and it connects to your entire workflow through MCP. Every single part makes the others even better. And all of this leaves us with a really big, kind of fascinating question to chew on. As these agentic tools get more and more capable, does our job as human developers start to change? Are we moving away from being the ones who write every single line of code and more towards being the expert conductors who orchestrate these AI agents to build things for us? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.